A couple of logistics to share with you. First of all, that was obviously still the defense. We didn't want you to miss any of his closing. He has just finished with his closing arguments. We also want to mention a second thing. You'll notice the clock has stopped in the jury deliberations. You could see it at 15 minutes.
Is it a verdict? Is it a verdict?
Right? That's what I thought. Like, what are they telling us? The clock has stopped. But here's what we know from our amazing court TV on the ground there. The jurors have gone home for the day, and they will therefore resume deliberations tomorrow morning.
All right, joining us now to discuss is National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, great to see you. Thanks for joining us once again. And we were debating here, you know, they go in for 15 minutes or so. Then they decide to tell the court, hey, we want to go home. There's a couple of scenarios here, right? They go in, they elect a four-person, take a vote, and then they decide, okay, we'll come back tomorrow. Does that mean that they were all unanimous and said, okay, let's go home and sleep on it? Or there was a significant enough split that they say, okay, we're going to have to dig in, do some work, let's get some rest, come back, start fresh in the morning. Your thoughts?
I think it could go either way. I think obviously they had a long day, they had a long trial, and I think that they just made a decision to just, you know, take a day. My prediction is to take a day, go home and relax, and come back fresh in the morning. I can't read more into it than that. All
right, and Michael, let me ask you this: we're looking at a picture right now there. Oh, that was what I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
That was right before Don Milarczyk, defense attorney for Sidney Powell, went to start his closing argument, and it looked, I thought he'd kissed the side of her head. It looked like he said something to her, and then she mouthed something.
Back, yes.
All of that to say, you know, as attorneys, we're not supposed to get that emotionally invested. As people, we can get very emotionally invested.
Yeah, and there's no question about it, and that's what it looked like to me there. I saw some semblance of it in his delivery. He seemed to want to impart that he truly believed in the arguments that he's making, that this young lady had a break from reality and did not know what was going on. He used the family to back that up. He used all the experts to back that up. So I think his emotional, I think the argument was emotional as well as legal.
I think so too.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we've talked about the idea that the state even brought this case with the wishes of the family being that not be the case. You had experts, many very well-respected experts who said that this was the case. He was, in fact, not guilty by reason of insanity. And then they bring in an expert that, and I got to ask you, Judge, what was your reaction when you found out that they had to find, of all the experts in the world, they found one that had no experience or particular experience testifying or had ever been certified as an expert in insanity defenses and brought her in to testify on behalf of the state?
Well, I'll say this. Everybody has to start somewhere. Experts testify all day long, and they have to have the first time testifying. So it happens. That's not unusual. I think what's surprising to me is they didn't set the stage a little bit better for the jury to understand that in terms of nervousness and personality in their delivery.
Yeah, because there certainly seemed to be some nervousness there. Her delivery wasn't as good as you would like, certainly not as good as some of the defense experts. All right, though the jury has gone home for the day, folks, we are continuing to bring you closing arguments in the mother stabbed murder trial. Up next.
Before we get you back into court, we want to bring in National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar, who's been here with us watching all of this. Michael, always great to see you. Tell me this. I feel like I'm listening to the rebuttal a little bit on the edge of my seat, more than I listen to the state's closing and then the defense closing, because of the passion that's being brought to say, follow the facts and the law. Put your emotion aside. We can all be sympathetic, empathetic. Put that aside. Rule on the facts and the law.
I agree with you. I found myself mesmerized by him, but really what really upset me was the fact that he said some things that were just wrong, right? For example, in his rebuttal, he said that the entirety of the opinions by the experts is based on what the defendant said, and we know that she lied and she could lie, and so we shouldn't rely on anything they said. But we heard Dr. Timmy, the excellent expert for the defense, say you cannot manipulate these tests. He had a battery of tests and follow-up questions and subsequent tests, and you could not manipulate those tests. We heard him say that. And to be honest with you, I mean, anything that any of these experts have done had to be gleaned through questioning of the defendant. So nobody could actually go into her mind, but Dr. Timmy said that his questions and the way he phrased them allows him to peer into the person's mind and know what the person is saying, and he flunked 94% of the people that he examined, and the only 6 out of 100 he determined to be criminally insane. So I disagreed with that part of the rebuttal by the prosecutor. I found myself disagreeing with a lot of the things he said.
I agree with you, Mike, and I think jurors picked that up. But as I sit here, I have a problem, and I want you to help me solve it. And I think it's the same problem a lot of people have, same problem jurors are having. My gut tells me that she did this, and she's malingering, and she's lying, and she's trying to get away with murder. But I think the defense has proven by preponderance of the evidence that she's not guilty by reason of insanity. What do I do?
I agree with you. They have met their burden of proof, which is low, preponderance of the evidence. And you heard Don Milarczyk say, we've beyond proved. I mean, they had 3 experts, and one of those experts is just, I made a mental note to call this guy as an expert in the case. If I ever need an expert in this category, I'm going to be calling Dr. Timmy, right? But whether or not she's malingering, I mean, the evasive maneuver she took after her dad told her that the police are coming, I find them problematic. But I do believe he met the burden. I'm with you, Michael. I don't know. I don't think the jury's going to go with it. Jurors just, they avoid these verdicts.
Yeah, fair enough. And again, I think the state is making a good point about some of the things she did after. All right, let's get back into the courtroom now. We continue now. We hit the pause button with the state's rebuttal argument.